Welcome to Tina Cooks. I'm Tina Piermarini. In this episode, we're going to show eggplant raviolis with the Modernera sauce and stuffed tomatoes with rice and potatoes, two of my favorite dishes. Stay tuned. I'm going to show you another one of my favorite childhood dishes. My grandmother used to make these, my Nonna. When her garden came in, she would use the abundance of tomatoes she used to get. We're going to stuff these tomatoes. It's a very light tomato with basil and rice. Okay, we're just going to clean these out. You want to take your rice out. You want to cut your covers so that you can cover them up after. Okay? I clean these a little bit ahead of time. I'm going to take and put those there for now, because when you work with rice, you have to have, what did I do with my cover? Oh, here it is, sorry. You have to have a certain amount of juice per rice. So if you're going to use a cup of juice, you need a half a cup of rice. All right, we're just going to turn this on a minute, if I could just work my thing. Okay, that's all I want done with that. We're going to come over here, we're going to put our burner on and our pot on our stove. Get rid of the spoon. There we go. We're going to start out with some olive oil. Now, when she used to make them with potatoes. She loved potatoes. She put potatoes in a lot of the stuff she made. The stuffed tomatoes, she put them in the zucchini vegetables, she put them in. It was just a staple that she liked to use. So we're going to start our potatoes out first. Okay, put this in there. That's garlic and onions. I left my onions sliced this time because I want them sliced. That's how I want them. Alrighty. Here, let's move this out of the way so I can see what my stove's on. Alrighty. Give that a minute to come up. Start putting my potatoes in here. Blender, we have the insides of the tomatoes, and I always open a can of crushed tomato or chopped tomatoes to add in case I need it, because you really do need to have the juice in there to cook your rice. Otherwise you have hard rice and that's a bummer. Alright, so we're going to season this up. I want to season my potatoes because we season everything a little bit at the time, so that the food has a nice even spice to it. I'm using salt, pepper, and parsley for the potatoes. I'm not even telling you anymore. I figure you just should know. All right, now these do have to go a few minutes. So we're just going to let them go. I'm going to cover them up. And we're going to let those cook a few minutes because you really want your potatoes to go a little bit. Okay, so we have our tomatoes off. Our potatoes are nice and golden brown. They're starting to brown nicely, okay? Put the temperature down a little bit because you don't want them to burn. I'm going to take, this is probably about a cup and a half, about a cup of rice. All right, uncooked rice, long grain, not the instant stuff. Doesn't work as good with the instant stuff. Okay, we're going to pour our tomatoes in there like so. All right, I'm going to take my tablespoon and I'm going to mix the rice around so that it's in the tomatoes. Now you're probably wondering why I'm doing this. Well, I'll show you. Okay, I'm going to take my little tomatoes and I'm going to make sure the ricey mixture gets in here. Going to separate my potatoes And I'm going to put that one right there. And we're going to give them a hat. There we go. Then I'm going to take this, and this is how you do your tomatoes. You stuff them, and you cap them, and you put them in between the potatoes. Okay, push your potatoes out of the way. Let them know who's boss. We're boss of this dish. Okay. Now you're probably wondering what I'm going to do with the rice that I have left over. Well, that's the beauty of this dish. I'm going to mix them in with the potatoes. My brother-in-law, Marty, had given me tomatoes, and I made this dish for my daughter. And I made it all the time when she was little, would never eat it. She said, I don't like this dish, Mom. I said, well, that's okay. So I used to just make it for me and my mother. So Marty brought me the most beautiful tomatoes I've ever seen in my life. So I had to cook them like this, because that's how you cook fresh garden tomatoes. And you're just going to drop the rest of the rice all the way around the other stuff. Okay? Now you are going to have to watch this a little bit. It's going to go, you're going to bring it to a simmer, okay? I like to make sure everything's in there nice and even, okay? Like that. You need to have a tightly covered pan. Cover that up. You're going to bring it down to a simmer. Nice medium simmer, like that, okay? And one more. Now you're going to want to watch these tomatoes, because after about 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes or so, no, 15, you want to check them. Make sure your rice isn't hard. If your rice is still bitey, I've opened a can of tomatoes, extra chunk tomato, a crushed tomato, puree it, pour it in, and let it simmer. You can use a little bit of chicken broth if you want to. You can use a little white wine. I tend to stick with the tomatoes because I like that nice, clean tomato taste. These are going to take about 20 minutes because it is a long grain rice and it needs to simmer that long. So we're going to give these tomatoes about 20 minutes and we'll be right back. It's time to check the tomatoes. It's been about 25 minutes. But rice cooks, if you have it at a different temperature, it takes a little longer, a little lower. All right, so now what we're going to do, see how this is? All nice and nice. I'm going to sneak in this little tomato right here because you want to check it inside and out. So I got a little scoop from the inside, a little scoop from the outside. This is very hot. You want to go frying yourself. It's not worth it. Oh. That is really good. I'm not going to add any more pepper or salt or anything. It's perfect. This dish is probably one of the best things to do when you have an overabundance of tomatoes. I really hope you try this one. This one's a good one. Serves with chicken, everything. Excellent. Give it a shot. A lot of times when you make eggplant, you get ends of the eggplant. Okay, now what I like to do with these is make a nice stuffing for eggplant ravioli. You can make this up ahead, or when you have the eggplant left, and put it in your freezer. It stays well in the freezer. So we're going to start out, we're going to add a little bit of oil here, okay? There we go. And we're going to put in some onions, of course. My favorite things. The floor's hungry today. Okay, we're going to throw in some garlic. Now, a lot of my stuffings that I make, I love to stuff things. I'm just a stuffing person. Okay. I do try to switch them up. That's why I say you can use hamburger, you can use pork. You know, try different meats with different things, because that's what gives you your different flavors and tastes. I use different kinds of crackers, breads, to give each stuffing its own personality. I'm starting out with the vegetables, okay? I do want these on a small, not real big. They are gonna wilt down. Okay. I'm going to also use mushrooms. Okay? You can use cremini, you can use, I'm using the white button, but you can use oyster mushrooms, you can use, what's the other ones? Portobellos. You can use any mushroom you want to use. I just bought these because they looked good. If I go into a store and a recipe calls for like a particular mushroom, and I don't like what's there, I don't buy it just because the recipe calls for it, because you gotta be a little smarter than that. I'm not gonna go buy something that looks horrible and put it in something that I want to be delicious, because then that's not gonna work out. It's gonna be horrible. Now I would say we have about a cup and a half of eggplant. And I'm going to end up putting a good cup of chopped mushrooms, okay, by the time I'm finished. Now, I try to give recipes the best I can. I'm really bad with recipes because I don't know if you noticed, but I don't measure. So it's hard for me sometimes to give a recipe, but I do the best I can. So if I email you or you call me and I give you a recipe, you're going to have to wing it a little bit. Alrighty. Okay, now I'm going to season these naturally because they're not going to taste like anything. Pepper. Ooh, that's a nice new milk. Alright, we're going to do a little bit of salt. A little bit of granulates. Garlic. And I'm going to toss this around a little bit. Now see how that's getting brown? That's okay. It's right in the middle there. This is it's one sausage link, and it's about 6-7 ounces of hamburger. This hamburger is really lean, so I am going to put a little oil because I want it to fry in with the vegetables. When I make a stuffing and I'm going to use vegetables, you've probably seen me do this a couple of times. I actually cook my vegetables in with the meat. I saute the meat right in the center of the pan, and then I start to incorporate the vegetables, because I want the meat to taste like those vegetables, because I want those flavors. Okay? Oops. Hey, get in there. Alrighty. Okay, now I'm going to go get a little red wine here, because I want to take these bits off the bottom. That's a good wine. Ooh, smells great. And then it will finish sauteing the rest of the way, because the wine won't take long to boil out. Wine is optional. You don't have to add it. Okay, now this is as cooked as I want it. This is done for me. I'm going to slide this off the heat, and I want to show you. Now, ordinarily, I take my stuffings, any hamburger or sausage stuffing, and I put it in the sink in the colander. But as you can see, there is no grease in here at all, so I'm not even going to worry about it. That hamburger was really, really lean. Even the sausage didn't extrude enough grease. All right, now this has to cool down to room temperature. It's really too hot to work with because of the sausage, and because it's going to go into a ravioli, it has to be cold. So we're going to take a break while this cools down, and I'll show you how we mix it up. Now I'm going to teach you how to make an easy Modernera sauce. This summer I made Modernera sauce with my class I taught down at the rec department. These kids were amazing. They learned quickly. This is a nice, basic, simple sauce. Start out with a little oil, onions, garlic, and we're going to get that going. I want a little more oil than that, because the oil actually is what makes the Modernera. A lot of sauces use meat, but I think it's the olive oil that really enhances the tomatoes and gets them going. Now while this is going, this is really kind of going crazy, but that's okay. I want it like that. Just let your onions and your garlic fuse together. I'm going to go over here and get some nice fresh basil that I froze. want to show you this because in the first show I showed you the frozen basil. This is how it freezes up. You just crunch it in there like that, and that's how you want your basil. You want it nice and big in this sauce. Okay. Woo! Don't go burning yourself like I'm doing right now. It's kind of silly. It's all right, I'll leave it there. Give me the knife. That didn't break up real good. I do want it broken up, so there we go. Whirl that around. Now that's going to give it a nice basil-y, perfumey smell. Okay? And then what you do is you take your plum tomatoes. I buy the plums. I like a nice, you can have it with basil, you can have it seasoned, or you can have it plain. You got to crush them up a little bit though, because you don't want them whole. This part, oh, the kids, you had to hear them. Oh, this is gross. This is it. Most kids like plain mud pies. I had a couple of girls that didn't like it. All right. Make sure they're broken up in there. As they simmer, they don't really break down. They keep their texture. Okay. I'm going to dump this in there. Try not to splash yourself. Okay. I am going to add about maybe a half a cup of water because I do want it to simmer down. It's going to concentrate and it's going to have a nice tomatoey flavor. Okay, we're going to bump this up to a boil. I'm going to rinse my hand off. And I am going to season because we season everything. You can't have it unseasoned. Okay. We'll start out with some salt. Okay. Some pepper. And some garlic. Now I don't add wine. I don't add parsley. I just leave it at a basil flavor, just basil. Okay, we're going to let this boil. Usually I boil it at a good rolling boil, not hard, like a simmer boil, at least a half an hour so that the water boils out and gets out of there. And we'll come back to it. Okay, this is how you want your marinara sauce. Be nice and thick. Notice it's not loose anymore. Basil's all through it. Nice and simmered out. We're going to shut that off. And that's ready to go. And that is your simple marinara. Now I'm going to show you how to make the stuffing to our eggplant ravioli. This is the sausage, the hamburg, the mushrooms, the onions. I'm not going to use a lot of breadcrumbs. I'm going to probably stick to the crackers more so. This is like a stuffing, but I'm not going to use a lot of stretches. Not a lot of what I call a stretcher is breadcrumbs and stuff like that. I just want them to be, you know, stuck together a little bit. I got to grab a few more crackers. I need a few more crackers. So I'm using a Townhouse cracker because they have that nice buttery flavor. If I need to use a little bit of breadcrumbs, I will. Now basically this is, we're just going to add this cheese, an egg, salt, pepper, parsley. Okay. A little bit of granulates, I want a little bit of garlic in there. Pepper. Naturally, I don't see my egg or my parsley, so I'm going to get my parsley, which is right here. Thank goodness. Gotta have that handy. All right. And right in my fridge, I got my eggs right here. I know I'm supposed to be ready, Carl, but I forgot. In a perfect world, I'll remember. There we go. I'm gonna add a tish of milk. Not a lot, because this is a very moist stuffing. I don't want to have to put a lot of breadcrumbs into it. Now, I did these in one of the restaurants that I worked in, and they went over fabulous. These particular ravs I don't like with a heavy, heavy tomato sauce. I use a light marinara like we made earlier. I am going to add a little breadcrumbs because this is very, very wet, and we don't want it that wet. It's probably a couple of tablespoons or a quarter of a cup. Okay. I'm smelling it because I'm looking for a certain scent, and I think I need some garlic. So we're gonna, where's my towel? That's what happens when I forget my towel. No towel. Here we go, I found one, thank God. I'm lost though, that. Okay, I want some more garlic. People say to me, how do you cook without measuring? It's called sense of smell, texture, and sense of taste. I will taste this, even though the eggs are raw. You may not want to do that at home, but I'm gonna do it. Because my stuffing is cold, because I had it in the refrigerator, and the egg is cold, because I just got it out of the refrigerator. Neither one of them are room temperature. Now, this might be a little gross, but oh yeah, that's exactly how I want it. It's not too, it's more moist than it is dry. I'm gonna wash my hands, clean this up, we're gonna roll some pasta and make the raviolis. Okay, as you can see, I made a small batch of pasta. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll the pasta dough out until I get down to 4, okay? I'm gonna start at my machine. I start at 1. Ooh, eyeballs are getting shot. All right, and I'm just gonna roll. Alrighty, that's number 4. I'm going to brush off my dough because this has a lot of flour on it. I don't want all this flour on it because then they won't seal well. I did put my stuffing in the refrigerator because it is kind of warm today, and it's a meat stuffing. So let me grab that out of the fridge. And which side did I put it on? Okay. I'm going to grab my film can that I cut with, and my fork, because I like to fork my raviolis. All right, now see this little end? Anybody that saw the ravioli show, if you get a little end like this, that's all right, don't let it scare you. Drop some of that eggplant stuffing in there. Oh yeah, this is gonna be excellent. And then just cut them around. Now this isn't like regatta. It's not going to puff. You know, it's gonna expand a little bit, but not much. Okay, and I'm just gonna fill these all as I go along, okay? I'm gonna turn these over. Now this isn't, like I said, not like regatta cheese. So if you gotta tap the meat down a little bit to get your ravioli to turn, do so. You know, if it doesn't go exactly the way you want, you make it work the way you want. All right, we're gonna try to cut this one because this one, I'm really pushing it with this one, but we'll see what happens. If it blows up, the water will have all sausage meat in it. Won't be the first time. Remember, if they start to stick, flip them. Don't reflour them at this point. You'll just have all the flour in your water, and it makes a sticky mess. Now see, that one's really full, but I'm gonna actually pick it up and seal it, and then just put the fork to it. It will close up good. There's a little hole there, but that's okay. Now everybody's probably asking themselves, Tina, you still have all this stuffing. Yes, I do. But this stuffing was made fresh. So I'm gonna get one of my Ziploc containers that I love so much, and I'm gonna freeze it. And And you know those stuffed chicken breasts we made with the breading, and you pan fry them, and you put them in the oven? This is gonna make one hell of a stuffed chicken. It's gonna be great. With that, you can use either your marinara, or it's even better with an Alfredo sauce. So keep that in mind next time you have an eggplant stuffing left. I think I have my water pretty much up to a boil here. We're gonna drop some of these in there, not all of them. Okay, I'm going to give those about 8 minutes, and we'll be back. I'm going to drain the water from the raviolis now. We cooked them all up nice. There we go. We had a slight accident with one, kind of popped there, but that's all right. Kind of stuff happens when you're cooking. I'm going to let this drain a few minutes because I want the water out. You don't want the water out. You don't mind one breaking, but having the water in is a real bummer. All right. Now. Okay, we're going to drop these in. You can see that I broke one. But that's all right. We're going to take our nice Modernera sauce, which is right here. We're just going to drip that all over the place here. So, eggplant ravioli marinara. Oh my God, this is going to be so good. When you make ravioli, experiment. You end up with wonderful dishes like this. Thank you for watching Tina Cooks, and have a good evening. I love it. It's great. Oh yeah. Look at that mushroom. Cool. See? I like to eat my own soup out. Absolutely.